Microwave ovens. They've been doing the same job for decades. Quick, easy, reliable, and it's like there's nowhere to improve them anymore. Zippers. Haven't changed much since the early 1900s. It seems to me that if there was something to improve in them, someone would have already figured it out. To some extent, this applies to the development of firearms. At this stage, it seems that we have reached a point where all improvements are essentially insignificant. Smokeless powder, the general shape of the modern cartridge, reliable semi-automatic or automatic weapons, all of this was invented more than 100 years ago. Of course, we can continue to improve these elements, but when was the last time something truly revolutionary appeared at the level of smokeless powder or a modern cartridge? Remember what the leap was from muzzle-loading rifles with percussion ignition to breech-loading rifles with cartridges, then to bolt-action rifles, and finally to semi-automatic weapons. This transition began about 150 years ago and essentially ended by the end of World War II. Everything that has happened since then is largely a minimal refinement of the design, but not something truly groundbreaking. Dildos. I periodically buy new models from new materials and with new shapes, but I always go back to my favorite dildo, which I've had since I was 14. In my opinion, dildos have completely stopped developing. I'm not taking into account any electronic models or vibrators. I mean the most ordinary toy, yeah. The last innovation for which I bought myself a new toy was the injection of liquid, like sperm. This is a significant upgrade, but it was more than 10 years ago, though. Internal combustion engines have largely reached their peak. Pencils and pens, they will be the same as they are now even in 1,000 years, lo. Film shooting equipment, especially equipment related to microphones and wireless sound transmission systems, has also largely reached its peak. For example, the Sennheiser MKH50, released in 1988, is still considered the industry standard for recording indoor dialogue in film and television. Similarly, Electrosonics introduced its digital hybrid commander-free technology back in 2002, and although there have been many improvements since then, as well as more modern, fully digital systems with a variety of conveniences, it is digital hybrid that still remains the most widely used professional wireless audio system in the US, at least in the field of film, television, and broadcasting. It is actually surprising how much more reliable and high quality the sound of a 20-year-old Electro wireless system can be compared to any consumer wireless equipment sold today. Gasoline engines. Despite the fact that modern gasoline engines are approaching their theoretical maximum of thermodynamic efficiency, they are still much less efficient than electric motors, and you need a lot of different extra shit to make them efficient. And all this shit breaks down, and then they either just don't work or are more inefficient. Yeah, catalytic converters, fuel injectors, ignition coils, timing chains and lifters, adjustable camshafts, PCV valves, etc. All of this has a fairly short lifespan. I'm glad that more advanced technologies are finally replacing gasoline engines. Electric cars are cool, but they have a whole list of cons, such as charging. And the infrastructure is still not ready for their mass use. I work in the R&D department of charging stations for electric vehicles, and I can say that this is definitely a real problem. We are working on it. Things like smart charge management and home solar panels combined with home energy storage will definitely help, but in the end, we will still face the problem of mass adoption. Hot dogs don't seem to be getting better. Rope. It is absolutely perfect for hundreds of years and requires no further improvements. Electric guitars and probably most musical instruments, but the peak of guitar technology was reached almost 70 years ago. The Macintosh operating system, also known as macOS, it cannot be improved. It is already almost perfect. This is a big problem for Apple because it needs to always create the impression that it is constantly introducing new features, but it cannot. Steel alloys. Steel production will certainly continue to develop, but the types of steel that we use today already cover all possible application scenarios. All the steel grades that I know of, from 14571 to 1462 and the classic S235, have been around for decades. As for gas-shielded welding, it has also reached its peak, when everything new is actually just related technologies aimed only at improving ease of use. Steam. You would be surprised how actively it is still used in industry and energy. Of course, there are small, gradual improvements thanks to new materials, but no breakthroughs are expected. A steam engineer from 1880 would feel completely at home being near our modern boilers and turbines. Of course, after he got used to computers and automation, though. VHS cassettes. Oddly enough, the technology performed its functions perfectly. It was possible to record TV shows, rent movies, and even create home videos. Of course, digital film is sharper, but VHS had that nostalgic quality that we are now trying to replicate with filters. Windshield wipers. The same design has been used for ages, and no one has come up with anything better. Every few years there are revolutionary developments, but they always disappear because the original works better. I would like them to be slightly improved and introduce something that will remove leaves or small branches that get stuck between the wiper and the windshield. Maybe a mini flamethrower or a tiny chainsaw. It's very annoying when a leaf gets stuck and you have to stop and get out of the car to remove it. The technology for making ice cream scoops hasn't changed much since my childhood. I think it's close to the peak. The internet. If the goal of the internet is to connect people and help them get accurate information, then I think it is quite possible that we have already passed the peak. If the goal is to distract us and sell intrusive advertising, then we still have everything ahead. Televisions. 4K, smart features, OLED, or local dimming, this is probably the last significant improvement, and some of them appeared more than 10 years ago. There are 8K TVs, but they are not in high demand because it's pointless. There's not much content in 8K, and ordinary people sit too far from the screen to notice the difference. I still have 3 Neutron Sonys with HDMI output on the back. LEC technology with 1080i, not P, looks about as good as my 4K TV. A 2004 TV, it's over 20 years old. It works perfectly, without delays, and the motion is just amazing. For example, when I stop the video on it, it is not blurred. It is just a perfect machine. Pencil sharpeners. The basic mechanism used in both electric and manual pencil sharpeners appeared back in the 1920s. Phones. They are already portable. We don't want them to be even smaller. I don't know what else can be improved. Most new models are just an improvement in compatibility and cameras. Scissors, cutlery, garden tools. Photorealistic painting probably reached its peak in the 1600 to 1800. Firearms, especially pistols. Of course, you can make them from modern materials or process them better, but in reality, you won't improve them much. Mechanical keyboards. We have almost perfected the feeling and functions when using them. Now everything that is presented as an innovation is just cosmetics or an inflated price. Basic AAA batteries. The form factor has not changed for decades. Reliable, simple, versatile. There is very little room left for any theoretical improvements unless we switch to a completely new technology. Light bulbs. Nowadays, LED bulbs burn out 3 times faster, and you will never find that same yellowish hue that gave the whole room a warm atmosphere. Making swords. We can create swords that will be better than all those that existed at the time when swords were still used as weapons. I was told that no weapon technology is improved while it is in use, that this happens only after it is abandoned. Smartphones. The fact that Apple is developing a foldable iPhone should be enough proof that they can no longer come up with anything new. Processors. For many years, chips have been decreasing in size, and performance has increased only slightly. Not to mention that quantum computers are still many years away from becoming retail products. In graphics processors, the progress is even less. Thank you very much for watching. In the comments under the video, write what technology has already reached its peak.